Hello and welcome to the Usability podcast, helping you to create better designs and better experiences every single week. I am Dr. Chris Parker, and this week we are talking about navigation. Navigation is one of these things that people overlook a lot on websites. They have this idea that they know how things work, they know the way people want to get to it, whatever content you have. So yeah, sure, just put a few menus in there, direct to the main areas, and we're good to go. Unfortunately, that doesn't quite work that way. Your website is a tool. You may not think of it as a tool, you may not think of it as something that gets a job done, but it is. Lots of people will create these wonderful interactions with videos and content, and they forget that the website is meant to do something. Now that something might be as simple as increase the brand value, get everyone who visits the website to go, wow, your website is incredible, your brand is incredible. Or it might be something more fundamental, such as make a sale. Allow your users to purchase your products, either single orders or bulk orders. So if your website is not effectively doing what you need it to do, it doesn't work and it doesn't need to exist. If your navigation sucks, if people cannot find their way through from the first page through to where they want to go to achieve the action they want to achieve, it is not going to work. Now, the problem is that lots of companies will go, right, our marketing drive at the moment is this, or our brand value is this. Now, we want to push this to our customers. We want to really bring this to the front and center of our website because that's what we really care about. We want our customers to know about this. Now, the reality is that your customers come to the website with a task in mind. That might be find out information. It might be to solve a technical issue. It might be to buy a product, whatever it is. And the first thing they see is not something that helps them achieve their task. It is something that helps the company achieve their task. Now, that is straight away a problem because you're going to butt heads if the thing that the company is trying to push is not the thing the person is coming there to see and do. That person is more likely to abandon the website and go somewhere else that will help them achieve their task. If it's buying a coat, the website that helps them buy a coat the best is going to be the one that they go to. So navigation really means a lot to a lot of people, even though when it works, it's invisible. Some of you might know the podcast 99% Invisible, and their tagline comes from the fact that great design is 99% invisible. So what do we consider as great navigation? Now, great navigation has quite a few defining characteristics, but the most important one has to be momentum. Now, before I go further, I'm going to tell you about a book which I've got this from. So if you want to check out more about this, Jerry McGovern's book, Top Tasks, is an absolutely fantastic treasure trove of resources on this. So I'd really advise you to go out, read his book and learn more about this. But Jerry talks a lot about a thing called momentum. Now, this is the speed at which you go through a website because people want to get to where they want to, the final task, final destination as fast as possible. The faster they can get to where they want to go to and where they can find the answer to their problem or achieve their task, the better. The more they got to think, the more they got to work around and squirrel their way there, the more chance they will abandon the website. So you can assume that wherever the user is where they want to be. So on Amazon, on the homepage, you've got all these different options, different parts of the company. You can go everywhere. As soon as you choose a section, such as musical instruments, then all the other navigation about every other part of the website disappears into a burger menu at the top or a tiny navigation bar at the top. That's because we know you care about musical instruments. Why give you anything else? Because anything else is going to slow you down. Once you get to the product page, everything else apart from the product disappears, apart from a tiny navigation at the top and a burger menu, because you care about that product. So removing everything that could slow you down really is a great idea. Second idea is unity. The idea that you want to cluster things together which belong together. So on the Manchester County Council website, you've got 8 different sections or 9 different sections And these are the 9 most common things people care about on Manchester County Council. Now, Manchester is a massive city. There's about 4 million people there. And you can bring it all down to 9 things: council tax, bins, work, libraries, environment, schools, benefits, parking, and council democracy. So let's take one example. We have benefits and support. Now, you can click on that and go to the whole benefits and support area. But the other things that associate with it, the other really important parts, are claiming benefits and housing benefits. So we're not going to take those claiming and housing and move them somewhere else. We're bringing them straight to the benefits and support so that your eyes are drawn to this section, you see what to do, and you go. Another important thing is think about twins. Now, what is a twin? A twin is that we have these logics of how to get to a product. So it could be on a website, I want to buy winter walking boots. Now, some people will think, I need boots. And now I've got to the boots section, I need the winter walking boots. Other people will think, I need the winter section. And once I'm in the winter section, I need boots. Both paths are completely fine. They're both completely logical. Yet, each of us will have preference for one. Now, if you're the programmer, you're the developer, quite common, you'll go, well, my preference is for boots and then walking. Therefore, everyone thinks boots and walking. And that's just disregarding the fact that people think differently. We've got to incorporate these different kinds of thinking structures into our system. So identifying when there can be a twin form of navigation means you can build this into what you're working on. Minimalism, I've spoken about before, is a really important area. Now, minimalism, people think of as being sparse white plains, expanses of white, with maybe one button or so on the page. And yeah, that is minimal. But minimalism really is saying, I'm going to give you the least required to do the job. That might be one button, sure, but it also might be 9 buttons, as on the Manchester County Council website. It could be 20. It really depends on what you're doing. So you've got to assess what are all the things people really care about on this page, on this website, on whatever, and remove everything else. Just like how Amazon removed their items when from the product page, or move navigation from the section page. Your navigation must be clear. Now, you think about what is clarity. It's not hiding things. So if we had a website which said data sheets as part of navigation, what the hell does data sheet mean? Does that mean product specifications? Is that company reports? Is that user data? Who knows? So anything you use, the navigation must have a very, very clear description. It must be absolutely obvious that what I'm clicking on is going to get to where I want to go. You've got to make sure that, every time you see a link, it's making a promise saying, hey, this is clear language. It's very clear that this is what I mean, and you can achieve this thing. So one example is on EasyJet's website, there's a button saying book now. You say book now, just above that is saying discover a new city this December for under £50 one way, book now. Great, okay, I want to go and do this. When you do that, it leads you to a very general website that doesn't really even pre-filter those categories. So it's made a promise, but it's not delivering on it. It's got low fidelity. You've got to make sure that what's promised in the link, what's suggested by the link, really is clear. And you want to make sure that you click on this thing and achieve what you want to achieve. So these are really some fundamental aspects of navigation. Now, if you are doing all of these things, you're going to have really good navigation. But one thing I keep coming back to, and I've mentioned just a few times now, is the idea that it depends on the people. It depends on the person. You've got to know what someone's trying to achieve. You've got to know how they think. How do your customers group things together? What's their natural flow? And then, does it even work? So these are real fundamental things that we tend to assume that if we go to a nice room and we sit down with a cup of tea, we think about it carefully, we can come up with the answer because we are clever, empathy-driven designers. We're great developers. So obviously our experience will drive this through. Unfortunately, that's very rarely the case. Why? Because we are not the user. Or at least we're very rarely the user, and we're certainly not the whole expanse of users. We are this weird one person on the side. And the way we think might be the same, but we don't know that. So you've got to go through a process to really develop your task navigation. Developing strong navigation. Developing navigation that works. Doesn't matter if it's a website, doesn't matter if it's an app, doesn't matter if it's the verbal navigation inside Amazon Alexa. You've got to develop it like an engineer. Now, usability engineering has been going out of vogue for the last 10 years, so really something coined by the Nielsen Norman Group back in the early 90s. And there's this idea that you can treat usability as something you engineer, you process, you run numbers and out it pops. And that's really been replaced by this more UX design approach of going, we can't know, but we can feel our way towards, we can iterate, we can drench it in emotion and empathy of the person who's using it, and that will create a great experience. Maybe less efficient than something from an engineering perspective, but overall more satisfying. So how do you do this? Now, this is going to be a topic of another podcast because we could be here, or, we could make a whole podcast purely on understanding users. So I'm going to give you a really quick overview of how you do this. If you want a better, more in-depth process, I strongly recommend you checking out Jerry's book, Top Tasks. It goes into lots of detail about how you do this. But the basic process is you first need to understand what your users really care about. A simple way of doing this is try and survey around, 150 people if you can, maybe 200 plus. And you should ask them, right, when you are visiting a website, what do you care about? Or not even our website. Now, let's say that we are a plumbing supplies company. You would ask people, maybe your target customer are plumbers because you are a trade company rather than a customer-facing company. You'd say to plumbers, when you're visiting a plumbing website, what do you care about? Now, what are the 5 things that you want to achieve? Or what are the 3 things you want to achieve? And they'll just give you a massive list. After you've interviewed, done 200 odd people, 150 odd people, you're going to get a very comprehensive list. You can then look onto Google Analytics and say, right, what are people searching for with plumbing? You can look at your company and say, well, what are we trying to achieve? And you're just creating a very long list. You're going to end up with a few hundred individual different tasks. Now, you can look at this and go, well, you've got filtering for dimensions, filtering for size, filtering for quality or color. That's all filtering. So you can take those and condense it right down. And after you've done all this stuff and you've kind of condensed similar items and deleted other parts, you're going to have a list of maybe 100 odd items. Take that, put it on a survey. And by the way, I would collect the first one with online survey, like Google Sheets. Put this on an online survey, put all of them in a random order. And on Google Surveys, it's great. You can randomize this list for you. So you go, right, give this survey to your customers, people who use your website. Now, the first task collection could be any plumber at all, but this one are your customers and people you want to target. And you say, right, here's a long list. Choose the 5 tasks that you care about the most. And they'll do that. And then you can sort of just quick into analytics and say, right, which tasks count? Then you look at your spreadsheet at the end of this and go, right, count the number of times each task has been nominated by a user. You can turn this into a pie chart or anything. And what you'll see is that a quarter of all tasks are maybe dominated by 3 or 4 items. Then the next quarter are dominated by maybe 6 items. So you'll find that around about 10 items out of your whole list dominate 50% for all things people care about. Now that's amazing when you think about it. We got 3 or 4 things that really are 25% of everything. 10 things dominate everything. Now that tells you what's going to be driving your first page navigation. So that's good, but it's not the only thing. So what you do is now go into a card sorting exercise where you take those top 10 or 15 tasks, get your users in and say, right, here's the cards. Sort them into piles that make sense. Sort them into piles that you think they belong together in. So do that. And when you do that, you can start to sort of take a note and see how people tend to structure them, tend to group them. You can use online software, such as optimalworkshop.com, or you can just do it manually. But either way, you're trying to see patterns. I've done this and did some analysis, which that could be a whole episode in itself, how to analyze card sorting. So I recommend Googling how to do that if you're not 100% confident. You're going to end up with a structure. Go, well, this is a very common structure. And this should work. This does work with all the grouping. Now, maybe it's not one thing that I would recognize as logical, but my users seem to. That's great. So then we can say, right, I'm going to draw out a tree map of my site structure based on this navigation. I'm going to go back to my original, 15 or 20 odd tasks I gave to them in the card sorting exercise. And for each task, I'm going to create a little scenario. So let's say I'm doing a shopping website, and this shopping website, part of it is a store locator. Okay, and that's one of the tasks. So I wouldn't go to someone and say, right, here's my top level tree navigation. Just the top level, the top, remember it's a website, got 9 categories. Whatever the top level of the tree. We're going to say that's 5 buttons, 5 category areas. I'll say to someone, right, if you're trying to find a store, which of these navigation buttons would you click on? Now, you can sort of start to do that with about maybe 15 people, maybe 20 people, maybe 30 people. The more the better. You can then see, right, what is my correct hit rate? If 90% of people are choosing the correct button that will lead them to store locator, then store locator is in the right area. You can stop. But if 80% are there, that's okay, we can live with that. Anything less than 80% of people hitting the right button to get to store locator is a non-effective navigation. You've then got choices to make. Do you then change the name of the category to make it more obvious? Do you move store locator to another place? Now you do this with all your tasks, and then you'd go, right, now we've modified that top level, go down another level, because you've got this tree sitemap expanding out. Go down a level and do the same task again and again and again into each level. So you're refining as you go. Now, once you've done this, your tree structure might have 3 or 4 levels. It's not going to take very long. And if you only did it with 5 people per level, that's going to be good. But you will have then iterated your navigation down from something which was initially made from card sorting and indicating logic to something that really works. You can find all of those topped areas. Now, if we had, let's say, 15 tasks in the card sorting exercise, and you bear in mind that 10 of those tasks represent 50% of what everyone cares about, so you're going to be on about 75% of all tasks everyone cares about on your website. You'd say 75% of all things people care about can be found in a few clicks 90% of the time. That is fantastic. Now think about that. Your users are arriving on your website. They have a task in mind. They want to achieve something. They know what it is. They can intuitively work through your navigation structure to find what it is in maybe 3 or 4 clicks 90% of the time. Someone who is cursory, just visiting your website on a chance that you might be able to help them, will find an answer, and they might start to love you. Your existing customers will stay with you because they know your website works. When they get frustrated and they go somewhere else, the competitor's website won't work as well and they'll return to you. This means that your tool for website is working more effectively. It's an efficient machine. It's a tool. It's generating brand value. It's generating sales. It's maybe increasing existing sales because people know they can always come to you to find what they need. New people are using your website because it works better. Now, Is navigation going to solve all your problems? No, it's only one part of a greater system. It's one part of the greater usability story. But follow this advice. Create your highly usable navigation structure, and your users will thank you for it. So that is the end of this podcast for today. I've been Dr. Chris Parker. I hope you found the information useful. I hope you can use this in your designs and just inform your general design process with any kind of usability or user experience process. You can follow us on Twitter at UseGenDesign, and also follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Himalaya.